Before we begin, take a moment to like and subscribe. The more you engage and stay with the content, the more YouTube shares these timeless insights with others. By doing so, you're not only helping this channel grow, but also spreading Carl Jung's transformative wisdom to those seeking meaning and inner truth. Let's dive into the depth of the psyche together. You arrive not merely with longing, but with a silence that trembles at the edge of revelation, that hush before truth lands. You carry the same ancient hunger I have seen in the eyes of exiled kings, wandering priestesses, forgotten children, each one masked in the costume of modernity, but aching with an ancestral grief. Beneath your carefully cultivated persona lies the ageless yearning to be loved. Yes, but even more than that, to be known without performance, to be seen and not flinched from. You speak of love, and yet love is not what you seek, not truly. What you crave is the reflection of your innocence in another's gaze, untouched by the bruises of your past. But the labyrinth of your soul is not linear. It bends, twists, devours. Love cannot navigate it for you. Love waits at the center like a flame. You must walk the corridors alone. There are mirrors hidden in your passageways, each shimmering with a face you have disowned. You wish to pass them without looking, but they will not let you. These are your shadows, the jealous one, the desperate one, the one who manipulates, the one who clings. These are not mistakes. These are not shameful flaws. These are your unlived lives, banging on the doors of your polished self. And so, I must ask, are you willing to bleed, not physically, but psychically, symbolically? Are you willing to shed the skin you have wrapped so tightly around your heart, that calloused identity constructed to survive, but not to love? For love is no gentle guest. It does not knock. It breaks down the door with sacred violence. It arrives as fire, and fire purifies by burning. True love does not flatter your illusions. It scorches them. It rips through your narratives, tears from your grasp the idol of control you have mistaken for safety. It throws open the basement of the psyche, exposing what lies chained in its damp corners. Your grief, your terror, your uncried tears. Love is the crucible where persona meets shadow. It is the unmasking. It is the sacred undoing. Do not confuse this with suffering for suffering's sake. This is not martyrdom. This is metamorphosis. Just as the caterpillar dissolves into cellular soup before becoming winged, so too must your ego dissolve. And it will resist. It will scream. It will reach for old lovers, old addictions, old distractions, anything but the unknown, anything but surrender. But love asks for your death not as punishment, but as passage, and in that death, you are not erased but revealed. The self, the eternal, waits beneath the false scaffolding, ancient and whole. The soul is not born in ecstasy. It is remembered in the fire. Consider the mythic lovers not as romantic ideal, but as archetypal initiates. Psyche was not given to Eros lightly. She had to descend, to be humbled, to sort seeds in the dark, to ride the chariot of the underworld, to earn the nectar of immortality. Such is the price of union, not with another only, but within the self. You must understand, to love another is not merely to offer your beauty. It is to hand them your wounds, to say, "Here, this is the map of where I've bled. Will you still hold me when the mask slips? Can you witness my rage and not confuse it with cruelty? Can I touch your sorrow and not mistake it for weakness?" But even then, the question is not about the other. It is always about you. Can you hold your own chaos with tenderness? Can you cradle your inner orphan without demanding others do it for you? Can you offer presence, not projection? Most do not make it this far. They dance at the threshold, then retreat. They label love too much, too fast, too intense. But what they truly mean is it saw me, and I was not ready. The feminine, in her sacred form, will not be possessed. She will not shrink. She will mirror to you every place you have split yourself in two. And the masculine, when awakened, does not conquer. He roots. He witnesses. He becomes the mountain that does not flinch when storms arrive. But both these principles live inside you. And until they meet, truly meet in the temple of your own heart, you will continue to chase partners who mimic the war within. You will call the chaos chemistry. You will call the abandonment fate, but it is your unconscious, still writing the story. You must become mythic to break the myth. You must see the scripts you inherited not just from your childhood, but from the collective unconscious. Generations of unloved daughters and uninitiated sons live inside your bones. Their pain repeats until someone dares to feel it fully. That someone is you. This is the path of individuation, and it is not linear. It loops, it spirals, it descends before it ascends. Do not look for milestones. Look for moments of truth when you stop mid-sentence and say, "That is not me anymore." When you choose vulnerability over manipulation, when you love not for validation, but for presence. You will not perfect this, but that is not the goal. Love is not performance. It is participation in the sacred dance, and sometimes you will stumble, you will forget. But if you return to the fire each time, with honesty, with humility, with awe, you will change. And love, real love, will meet you not as a reward, but as a reflection of the work you've done in the unseen places. The nights you stayed with your ache instead of fleeing, the mornings you chose stillness over reaction, the hours you sat with your inner child, weeping for what was never given. All of this is love, not the kind that sells, the kind that saves not from pain, but from illusion. So now, if you've journeyed this far, I invite you to participate in a final act, a gesture, not to me, but to yourself. Drop a number in the comments, not just any number, but the one that speaks to the soul of this passage. Let it be the symbol of your becoming. Perhaps it is 2, the sacred union, or 7, the number of initiation and inner alchemy, or 12, the full circle of archetypes returning to source. Maybe it is 0, the void before rebirth, the womb of potential. Whatever number rises from your unconscious, trust it. Let it be a ritual, a sigil, a soul mark, a quiet vow whispered in digital space, joining you with others who are on this path. For you are not alone. The ones who burn for truth always find each other. In dreams, in stories, in symbols. Leave your number, then go forth not as a seeker of love, but as its living embodiment. The fire is not outside you, it is you. You begin to see the person in front of you, not as your savior or persecutor, but as a soul, imperfect, evolving just like you. It is here, in the ashes of fantasy, that real love is born. But this love is not glamorous. It is not immune to conflict. It does not always feel good. In fact, it often feels like work, because it is work, the sacred work of becoming whole. And so, many turn away. They retreat to the safer territory of superficiality. They chase novelty. They blame the other. They say, "It wasn't meant to be," and perhaps it wasn't, but more often. The truth is simpler. They were not ready. You see, love is not something you fall into. It is something you become capable of, and this capacity is forged in the dark. It is born of nights spent crying over old wounds, of dreams where the ex-lover returns, demanding, reckoning, of encounters with archetypes, the wounded child, the abandoned one, the betrayer, each offering a key to the locked chamber within. You cannot bypass this. No affirmation, no technique, no lover will save you from yourself. You must go inward. When you descend, you may meet the shadow, that repository of all you have denied. It may take the form of rage, of envy, of the deep suspicion that you are unworthy of love. Do not turn away. This is the dragon that guards the treasure. This is the guardian of the gate. If you run from it, you will repeat the cycle again. But if you face it, name it, embrace it, something begins to shift. You reclaim your power. You realize that the fear of love was never about love itself, but about your own vulnerability, your terror of being known, of being seen, of being touched in places that never healed. And slowly, gently, you begin to offer those places to yourself. You parent the inner child. You speak the unspeakable. You weep the ancestral grief. And from this depth, love begins to grow. Not as a rush, but as a root you begin to choose differently. Not because the old patterns no longer tempt you, but because you recognize them for what they are. Invitations to remain asleep, and you are no longer willing to sleep through your life. You are no longer willing to call fear intuition or sabotage destiny. You are ready finally to live the truth. You have always known that love is not something to be earned, or chased, or controlled. It is something to be allowed. It is something to be received. But only the true self can receive it. And so the work continues. Each day, you are asked to meet yourself more deeply, to listen to the body, to track the dreams, to question the beliefs that have shaped your perception. You are asked to befriend solitude, to find your worth in stillness, because until you know who you are without the other, you will use the other to fill the void. And that is not love. That is dependency. And dependency always breeds resentment. What is required is a return to the soul, to the ancient place within you that remembers what it means to be whole. This place cannot be found through external achievement. It cannot be reached through performance. It is revealed in the silence, in the symbols, in the sacred rhythms of your own being. And when you begin to live from this place, not occasionally, but consistently, love becomes inevitable, not because you chased it, but because you became it. And those who are meant for you will recognize it, not in your perfection, but in your presence, not in your performance, but in your authenticity. They will feel safe, not because you are flawless, but because you are real. That is the essence of love. Presence without pretense. Do you feel it now? The quiet invitation pressing against your chest. Not the clamor of your mind demanding reasons, but the deeper rhythm beneath thought, that pulse of knowing. The soul does not speak in words. It speaks in symbols, in the synchronicity, in the subtle shiver that moves through you when truth is near. And love, real love, does not shout. It whispers. It waits. It dwells not in the performance of affection, but in the willingness to be transformed. And transformation is never comfortable. You see, what frightens you most about love is not that it might break your heart, but that it might change your life. That it might unravel the very self you spent decades constructing to survive. Because love is not content to dance only with your light. It seeks to enter your depths. It seeks the room you keep locked, the memory you've wrapped in silence, the face in the mirror you refuse to see. It knows that your capacity to give and receive love is directly proportionate to your capacity to sit with the parts of yourself you deem unlovable. But instead, you ask, why do I attract those who cannot love me? My answer is this: you attract not what you want, but what you are unconscious of. Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will govern your life, and you will call it fate. And so, the wounded find the wounded, the abandoned find the unavailable, the anxious find the avoidant, and the cycle continues. Not because you are cursed, but because the soul longs for integration, even if it must reenact pain to get your attention. Let us walk then into the architecture of your inner world. Do not be afraid. I will show you what your conscious mind has forgotten, but what your dreams have always remembered. There is a door inside you. Behind it lives your inner child. Not the one captured in nostalgic photographs, but the one who still believes love must be earned, the one who internalized rejection as unworthiness, the one who learned that to be seen is to be judged. And so now, even as an adult, keeps disappearing. Every time closeness comes near, that child is the root. And no matter how polished your persona, no matter your achievements, your intellect, your spiritual vocabulary, that child still lives within you, shaping your relationships from the shadows. When someone truly loves you, it is that child who trembles, not out of hatred for love, but out of terror that this too will end in abandonment. And so the sabotage begins. You pull away. You criticize. You ghost. You erupt. You call it intuition when really it is a trauma response. Wearing a spiritual mask until you hold that child, until you kneel before the altar of your own innocence and speak these words. I will not abandon you. Again, love will continue to trigger, not your joy, but your defense mechanism. Do you see now you are not meant to master love? You are meant to remember it, for love is not an emotion. It is a force. It is the current that moves through everything. It is the animating principle of existence. And when you block it through cynicism, through shame, through fear, you do not just cut yourself off from others. You exile yourself from the divine within. And yet, here is the paradox. Love will not violate your boundaries. It will not force itself into your life. It must be invited. It must be allowed. And that is what makes it terrifying. Because to allow love is to surrender control. To allow love is to risk exposure. To allow love is to say, I am willing to be seen, and I am willing to stay. Even when my instinct is to run, even when my nervous system shakes, even when the old story of I am not enough begins to scream, I will stay. This is the courage that love requires. Not the courage to win someone's affection, but the courage to stay present in the face of your own discomfort. Let me tell you now a dream, not mine, but a composite of many I have encountered in my work. A woman dreams she is walking through a cathedral, made of glass. Sunlight pours in through every wall, illuminating her body. But she is naked, and others are watching. She wants to hide, but there is nowhere to go. So she kneels. She weeps. And in that moment, her skin turns to gold. This is the dream of the soul. You long to be seen. But only when you are prepared to embrace your vulnerability can your essence begin to shine. And the alchemists understood this. They spoke of the nigredo, the blackening as the first stage of transformation, the descent, the dissolution. And so too, in love, there must be a death. The death of the false self, the death of the persona. Only then can the heart be reborn in its radiant fullness. But many avoid this descent. They prefer to live in the bright halls of idealization where lovers remain perfect, where conflict is avoided, where pain is projected. They chase the high of new connection, never staying long enough to see the real work begin. But this is not love. It is fantasy. And fantasy always collapses beneath the weight of reality. So I ask you, are you willing to meet reality? Not the one you were conditioned to expect, but the one your soul came here to experience. Because love, true love, is not neat. It is not tidy. It is not convenient. It is a mirror that shatters delusion. It is a furnace that burns away pretense. And if you are brave, if you stay with yourself through the contraction, it will open you to dimensions of joy, of intimacy, of presence that your rational mind cannot fathom. But first, the fire. And in that fire, you will meet the archetypes. You will meet the orphan, the part of you that still waits for someone to come back. You will meet the saboteur, the part that believes love is dangerous and must be preemptively destroyed. You will meet the prostitute, the part that trades authenticity for approval, and, perhaps most painfully, you will meet the judge, the inner voice that tells you every time you open your heart that you are a fool. But listen to me closely now. These parts are not evil. They are not your enemies. They are survival strategies, loyal guardians of your early life, forged in moments when you had no other choice. And until you acknowledge them, thank them, and release them, they will continue to drive your relationships from behind the curtain. So you must turn inward. You must enter the dreamscape. You must descend into the cave. You must sit with your shadows until they become familiar, until they reveal their wisdom. This is not an overnight process. It is a path of integration, a path of becoming whole. And as you walk it, love will begin to shift. It will no longer feel like rescue. It will feel like resonance. You will stop seeking those who inflame your wounds and begin attracting those who honor your healing. You will stop needing to be chosen because you have chosen yourself. You will stop trying to earn love because you now understand love is not a transaction. It is a recognition, a return, a remembering. And in that remembering, you become dangerous to everything that is false. So prepare yourself. When you stop performing, the world you built from performance may begin to fall away. Certain relationships will dissolve. Certain dynamics will no longer make sense. You will grieve. You will rage. You will feel lost. But in that disorientation is the seed of freedom, because now you are no longer living from the wound. You are living from the truth. And the truth is this: you were never broken. You were never too much. You were never unlovable. You simply learned to survive in a world that taught you to abandon yourself. But survival is no longer enough. It is time to live and love. Real love begins here, not in the arms of another, but in the arms you offer yourself. I sense the silence growing in you, not the silence of repression, but of listening. Something ancient is awakening behind your eyes. It is not a new idea I'm giving you. It is an echo of something you have always known. The soul remembers what the mind has forgotten, and love, though buried under centuries of confusion, was never meant to be figured out. It was meant to be embodied. Let us speak now of embodiment, because without it, all talk of love remains suspended in the air, poetic, lofty, safe. But love, when real, descends into the body. It makes you feel, and that is where you begin to falter. You mistake intensity for danger. You call numbness peace. You feel a stirring in your chest and immediately wonder, what's wrong with me? What's wrong is that you've learned to live from the neck up, analyzing, calculating, surviving. And your heart has become a forgotten cathedral. So when someone knocks on his door, you panic. You have not prayed there in years. You do not know how to let someone in without fearing collapse. But the truth is, collapse is part of the initiation. Yes, love requires the collapse of the fortress, the slow cracking of the armor, the thawing of the frozen places, the grief that floods in when you realize how long you've been starving for something you were too afraid to touch. I have seen this grief. It is holy. It arrives in therapy rooms, in dreams. In the moment, a man drops his mask for the first time and lets himself weep. It arrives in the tremble of a woman who says aloud, "I don't want to be strong all the time." It arrives when someone finally stops blaming and begins feeling. It is the grief of a soul who realizes, I have abandoned myself for love, and now I must return to me. Let me say this plainly. If love has always felt like suffering, you have not yet met love. You have met your childhood. You have met your patterns. You have met your unconscious. But love is not trauma dressed up in fireworks. Love is not the ache that follows a high. Love is steady. It is deep. It is patient. It does not need to be dramatic to be divine. But you crave the drama because it mimics the storm of your past. You confuse adrenaline with aliveness. You equate chaos with connection because that is what love felt like before. Unpredictable, unstable, conditional. And so when love arrives soft and grounded and consistent, you feel bore. You tell yourself there's no spark. But it's not a lack of chemistry, it's a lack of wounding. There is no wound for this love to trigger. And so you don't recognize it. You see now the depths of the unconscious, how even your preferences are shaped by pain. That is why self-awareness is not optional. It is essential. If you do not understand your own inner landscape, you will wander the world looking for love. And every time it finds you, you will reject it. Not because it is wrong, but because you are not yet familiar with peace. So let us go deeper. Let us speak of projection. The most subtle and insidious barrier to love. Projection is the soul's attempt to complete itself through the other. You see in them what you have not yet claimed in yourself. You call it chemistry. You call it magic. But often it is simply your unconscious mirrored back to you. Until you know your shadow, you will fall in love not with the person before you, but with your own reflection cast upon them. And then the pain begins, because no one can carry the weight of your unlived life. You expected her to mother you. You expected him to father you. You wanted them to make you feel what you refused to feel alone, but no one was sent to complete you. They were sent to reveal where you are still incomplete. This is the sacred function of relationship. Not to fulfill the ego's fantasy, but to accelerate the soul's evolution. Yes, the relationship is the teacher, and often the lesson hurts. It hurts to see your neediness. It hurts to realize your anger was misdirected. It hurts to admit that you clung to someone not because they were right for you, but because they mirrored your familiar wound. But such pain, if you let it guide you inward instead of outward, becomes a portal and love waits on the other side. Not love as possession, but love as presence. Not love as escape, but love as revelation. This is the love that does not need to be chased, the love that does not come and go with someone else's mood, the love that does not ask you to be less of yourself in order to be wanted. This is the love that rises from within, the love you find when you sit in your own darkness and finally say, even here, I am worthy. Only then can another meet you there. Only then can intimacy deepen because it is no longer built upon illusion. You are no longer trying to be loved by pretending to be someone else. You are known fully, fiercely, and from that, knowing. Trust grows. This trust is not blind. It is not naive. It is earned, not just through what the other person does, but through how deeply you are willing to show up for yourself. You do not trust others more than you trust you. So if you betray your needs to maintain connection, if you silence your truth to avoid conflict, if you collapse into old roles just to feel safe, you are teaching your nervous system that love requires self-abandonment. And every time you do that, your body tightens, your dreams darken, your soul recoils because deep down, you know, this is not love. This is reenactment. But when you break that cycle, when you say, "I will not sacrifice my authenticity for attachment," something begins to shift. You grow up, not in the cynical sense of losing wonder, but in the sacred sense of reclaiming agency. You become sovereign, and from that sovereignty, you begin to relate not from hunger, but from wholeness. The most magnetic person is the one who does not need you, not because they are detached, but because they are already connected to their essence. They are already held, already seen, already known by themselves. Their love becomes a gift, not a transaction, an overflow, not a manipulation. And in their presence, you remember your own wholeness too. This is what we long for. This is what the psyche moves toward, even as the ego resists it. So the question is not, why haven't I found love? The question is, am I willing to become the person who can receive it? To become that person. You must say goodbye to the familiar pain. You must be willing to let go of your addiction to patterns. You must be willing to lose people who prefer your old self to your true self. And yes, it will hurt, but it is the sacred hurt of rebirth, like the caterpillar dissolving into mush before becoming the butterfly. You will go through a formless phase. You will not recognize yourself. You will doubt the process. You will want to crawl back into the cocoon. But wait. Stay. There is more. Now, you are here, not just sitting in your chair, but here, inside the trembling mystery of your own becoming. This is the sacred moment. The veil is thin. You feel the trembling at the edge of your ribs. The soul has approached the gate of knowing. Do not rush. Stay present. You were never truly afraid of love. You were afraid of the truth that love would show you the truth of who you really are beneath the performance, beneath the perfectionism, beneath the fear, the truth that you have always been worthy. And the moment you accept that, the moment you no longer fight it, your entire relationship to love changes. You stop searching and begin seeing. And what you begin to see is life itself offering you mirrors, not to seduce or to punish, but to awaken every person who enters your orbit, everyone you feel magnetically drawn to, every heartbreak, every silence, every triggering moment. It was all calling you back to yourself, not to your surface self, but to the sacred core beneath your coping mechanisms. Yes, you may have been hurt. Yes, people may have left. Yes, you have loved in ways that shattered your spirit. But even that, especially, that was part of the alchemical process. Because if you had not been broken open, you would never have seen the pieces that needed your attention. This is the gold inside the wound. This is the philosopher's stone that so many seek in books. Technique. And other people never realizing it was hidden in their own capacity to feel. And now that you feel, now that you do not run from discomfort, now that you can sit with sadness and greet anger as an old companion, now that you can cry and not apologize for it, you are ready, ready to receive love. Not as validation, but as vibration, not as possession, but as partnership. Not as salvation, but as sacred reflection, because you are no longer a seeker begging for wholeness. You are a sovereign being, offering your presence. You see, the truth is, you always had love, even in your most lonely moments. Love was there, whispering through your breath, pulsing in your bloodstream, written in the way you still hoped, even when your heart was weary. Love was in the way you held yourself after betrayal, in the way you kept your eyes open to beauty, even after the world disappointed you. Love has always been your nature. You simply forgot. But now you remember. Now you begin to notice love in the smallest things. The wind pressing gently against your skin, the light falling through the trees, the tears that arrive uninvited and unashamed. These are not distractions from your path. They are the path because love, in its mature form, is not about ecstasy. It is about intimacy with everything. And so, when another soul stands before you, trembling in their own remembering, carrying their own shadows, trying in their own imperfect way to touch the divine through you, you no longer shrink, sabotage or chase. You breathe. You stay. You see. You do not need to fix them. You do not need to lose yourself in them. You simply meet them where they are. And in doing so, you create a sacred space where real love can finally land. Real love does not scream, it listens. Real love does not perform, it resonates. Real love does not possess, it honors that kind of love. That quiet, courageous. Cosmic love can only be experienced by a soul who has made peace with its own chaos. So if you want to handle love, truly handle it, hold it, live it. You must be willing to meet yourself again and again. In every mirror love provides, you must ask what part of me is still afraid to be known. You must open the door, even when your voice shakes. You must risk being wrong, being hurt, being human, because only then can you be real. And real is what love recognizes. There will still be days when you forget, days when the old story knocks, when your body wants to run, when your mind says it's safer to be alone. That's okay. You are not failing. You are healing. But healing is not a linear path. It is a spiral. You revisit the wound, not to stay there, but to meet it with new eyes, to bring your evolved self to the place that once broke you. And in that moment, something miraculous occurs. The pain becomes power. The shadow becomes strength. The heart, once fractured, becomes the altar of a deeper union. So let us close here, not with answers, but with invitation. Go now and love, but not as you once did. Do not love from lack. Do not love to fix. Do not love to distract. Love from wholeness. Love from awareness. Love from the place in you that knows. Even if they do not choose me, I have chosen me. Let your love be a practice, not a performance. Let it be prayer, not proof. And above all, let it begin inside you. For the love you are willing to give yourself sets the tone for all the love you allow from others. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be present. And from that presence, a deeper love is born, not just for another, but for the totality of life itself. This is why you couldn't handle love before, but now you can.